Hey everyone, Bitcoin's price goes up for two reasons. One is adoption, and second is human productivity growth, which goes up over time. So let's talk about each of those. First is adoption. Bitcoin's price goes up as more and more people use Bitcoin. And over time, that number keeps going higher and higher. And human productivity growth, which means the rate at which humans get better at making things. So, for example, a can of Campbell's soup costs 10 times as much over the last 10 years. But that's not because we got bad at making Campbell's soup. We actually got a lot better at making Campbell's soup. Had the government not inflated the money supply in such a completely out of control way, a can of Campbell's soup would be much cheaper today than it would have been 50 years ago. But that's not the case. It's 1,000% more expensive. And the reason for that is the government has printed insane amounts of money, which has made the dollar much less valuable. If we were actually measuring the price of a can of Campbell's soup based on how hard it was to make a can of Campbell's soup, the price over time would be much cheaper because humans just get a lot better at making tin cans, a lot better at making soup, and everything like that. So if you have a money that is not constantly being inflated into oblivion, like the US dollar, the money increases in value, and it increases in value by about 3% per year. And that is because on average, over the long term, humans get about 3% better at making everything on average. That means we get 3% better every year at making a Big Mac, a can of Campbell's soup, a park bench, lumber for housing. If you take everything else out of it, humans in general get about 3% better at making everything. And so if you have a money with a fixed supply, like Bitcoin, where there are only ever going to be 21 million, then the value of that currency goes up by about 3% per year, because the amount of things you can buy with it goes up about 3% a year, but the amount of currency in circulation does not go up by 3% a year. And as a result, you end up being able to buy more stuff. So let's talk about adoption. So adoption is the rate at which people are using Bitcoin. People are deciding to store some of their wealth in Bitcoin so that they can save their time and energy for later, which is what money is. It's the ability to save your time and your energy for later, because if everybody knew everything they needed and they needed everything they needed right now, we would not need the concept of money. We only have money because we want something that lets us buy stuff later. If we wanted stuff now and we knew perfectly what we wanted now, then we would just set it all up where we traded everything we have for everything we want and we'd be done with it. But that's not how the world works. The truth is we get paid a paycheck, and then we want to buy stuff later, and we store the time and energy that we worked for in money until we're ready to buy something later. So that's what money does. So adoption results in the price of Bitcoin going up because obviously when 10 people are using Bitcoin, the price is way lower than when 10 million people are using Bitcoin, and each one of them wants Bitcoin. They want to hold it. They want to use it. They want to spend it. They want to, it's just more people using Bitcoin. So you might wonder, well, why is the price volatile if it's only being driven by human productivity growth and adoption? And the answer is because people are also speculating on adoption. So if everybody knew with absolute certainty the rate of adoption of Bitcoin, let's say 35 years from now, or, some period in the future, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, when Bitcoin was the monetary system of the world, it was the only form of money and everybody was using it. If everybody knew when that was going to happen and the magnitude of how much Bitcoin everyone would want to hold, then the price of Bitcoin would be very stable because everybody would know what the value was going to be in the future. And it would be very easy to sort of discount that back to the present and figure out what a Bitcoin should be worth in US dollars today. But we don't have that luxury. And so every single day, people are speculating on the adoption of Bitcoin and how long it will take. So is it going to be the future monetary system of the world or not? And if so, how fast is that going to happen? Is that going to be 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, 35 years? Nobody knows. And as a result, the price of Bitcoin is going up and down as people are trying to figure out what the adoption is going to be and how quickly that adoption is going to happen. And if that were 100% known, it would be very stable in price, but it's not. And so literally by the day or by even the hour, people are speculating that adoption is right around the corner and the price is going up. And then an hour later, people are speculating that, you know what, maybe it's not right around the corner. Maybe it's going to take a little while. And the price goes down. And then somebody says, oh no, but what if we don't all adopt Bitcoin? And the price goes down. And then everybody sort of researches it and realizes that the probability that we're all going to adopt Bitcoin is very high, and the price goes up. So the price goes up and down and up and down and up and down because people are trying to figure out how fast will adoption happen, and how long are we going to have to wait for that to happen, and what is the probability that Bitcoin does become the future monetary system of the world and the universal worldwide form of money that is not controlled by any government or any company and all of that. So as a result of that, the human productivity growth driver of Bitcoin's value is easy to figure out. It's about 3% a year. So Bitcoin should go up by 3% a year for the rest of eternity, even after full adoption. So even when 100% of the world is using Bitcoin for everything, and Bitcoin is the only form of money worldwide, Bitcoin's value will still go up by about 3% per year. And that is because humans will still be getting better at making stuff by a factor of roughly 3%. And so as we get better at making stuff by 3% a year, there is more stuff to buy with our money by about 3% per year. And therefore, when you have a fixed supply of money, only 21 million, it results in the purchasing power of that money going up by exactly the same amount as the amount of stuff you can buy for it. So if you can buy 3% more stuff every year because humans are 3% better at making stuff, then that means your money will go up in value 3% per year. So the reason we have inflation and everything costs 4% more per year, which means it's going the wrong way, is because the government prints about 7% more money per year. So there's about 7% more US dollars. And that way, that means instead of getting a 3% discount every year, which is what should happen, you're getting a 4% inflation. Basically, the pendulum is swinging. Instead of 3% to the good, you're getting 4% to the bad. And that is what's happening with the US dollar, and that cannot happen with Bitcoin. So why does the price of Bitcoin go up? Two primary reasons. One, human productivity growth, but that is the slow way that will go forever. The other is adoption, which is the fast way, but that will eventually run out of gas. Adoption will eventually run out of gas when, call it 50 years from now, when Bitcoin is the only monetary system of the world and it is universally adopted by all humans. Well, at that point, there's no more adoption, and it's purely a function of human productivity growth. But at that point, according to Michael Saylor, every Bitcoin is worth $13 million, which is 130 times the current price, which is 13,000%. So, who knows? That's going to take a while, probably, certainly decades. So anyway, still an incredible time to buy Bitcoin because you can buy an asset that at least Michael Saylor believes will be worth $13 million per coin at a current price of just less than $100,000 per coin. You can buy that today, and you can benefit from being an early adopter to the money of the future in the present, and benefit on top of that by human productivity growth, which will make Bitcoin go up by 3% per year forever, regardless of adoption. So that's why Bitcoin goes up: adoption and human productivity growth. And human productivity growth will go on forever. Adoption will not go on forever, but will certainly go on for decades into the future, driving the price from where it is now to likely way into the millions of dollars per coin. Although, because we've never had a sound money that worked, meaning a scarce money that worked worldwide, that has never been a thing, it could be much higher than even millions of dollars per coin. So have a great night, everyone. And I'm always here for anything you need. Thanks.